Hi everybody, it's Mr. Gray here. Thank you again for another tremendous week. I just have a couple announcements to start off. The first is that we have our first art class where a teacher from the district comes and does art on Wednesday. The kids are usually pretty excited about that, and we'll have a great project that they're working on. And then the second one is the kids did a really nice job this week. You might have heard about it with their should you upgrade, should you buy a new iPhone project. If you haven't heard about it, definitely ask your kids about it. They were basically randomly assigned, a current phone of some kind that they could trade in for a new phone, and they had to determine whether or not that was a financially sound decision. So they did a really wonderful job. They had to work together in their group, do their own research, and present this week. So they did all of that, and they did a really tremendous job. So definitely ask them about that. If you haven't heard, many of you got interviewed for that, so you might already kind of know what's going on. In Reader's Workshop this week, we're lifting our level of our reading. Our final goal is to be people who are on the lookout and recognizing themes in fiction books. And so we're kind of taking steps toward that. Now, this is something that kids have studied before, but being on the lookout for it all the time is the next step, where it's not so obvious in stories as we read harder texts, where we have an idea of themes that come up over and over again in lots of books, and that's where we're really taking steps for. So we're going to, they kind of finished some work this week. They had a big project they turned in where they had done reader's notebook pages, and they had done a lot of work to turn those in, so those will get graded and sent back. And then next week, they're gonna meet with a partner, so not only will they be thinking in terms of analyzing the story, interpreting big ideas, and looking for themes, but they'll have a partner to work with on top of the individual work that they're doing. So they'll meet with their partner and kind of chat about things they're seeing in each of their own individual books, and then they will be working together in that department, and then we'll continue that work. So we'll keep looking at the idea of theme from a more basic level onto a more advanced level as we go on over the next couple of weeks. For writing this week in Writer's Workshop, the kids are going to publish their first narrative. They've been drafting a little bit. We've been adding a couple things, but now they're actually going to turn in the first one. This is a great chance for the kids to see, and appreciate all that they've accomplished in their first draft, but also take a minute to see where they can improve. And that will be partly from me giving them feedback, and also partly from their own assessment of their work. As we start the next draft, or continue the next draft next week, the kids, and this is going to be closely tied to reading, are going to be trying to bring out the meaning in stories. We know that in fiction books, there's often multiple big themes the author is trying to spread across by telling this story. Like, the story isn't just the series of events. It has something extra in it that the author wants to tell us or show us. And so we're going to try to infuse that into our writing. We're also going to try to elaborate on the most important scenes, take extra time to make sure those have a lot of elaboration, and add scenes from the future or the past. So we'll add flashbacks or flash forwards to our story, and that might help elaborate the meaning as well. In maths this week, the kids were working on dividing fractions, and specifically dividing fractions visually. Many of the students are pretty familiar with the algorithm of dividing fractions, keep it, change it, flip it, but we're looking to go a little bit deeper and talk about why that even exists, and the relationship between keep it, change it, flip it, and multiplication, and the visual method of dividing fractions. I'll give you one example. We were asking the question, if I spread out pieces of paper that are 8.5 inches wide over 89 1/4 inches, how many pieces of paper do I need? So it is, in fact, just a division problem with mixed numbers, 89.5 divided by 8.5. But if I can look at it visually, it gives me a different window into that actual process. So we are both looking at visually what's happening, and the kids are making pictures and drawing pictures of problems like that. And we'll also be looking at the algorithm of keep it, change it, flip it, and we'll talk about how those go together. We'll review, and then later in the week we will do a quiz on dividing certain kinds of fraction problems, and then we'll move on after that. For social studies, there's a couple of things happening. The first is we're going to our last lesson on Native American tribes. The kids have made wonderful totem poles to celebrate the culture of Native Americans. We're also going to study the government and economy of Native Americans next week. We'll also take a quick detour looking forward, and we're going to quickly study the U.S. Constitution, actually the preamble to the U.S. Constitution. Saturday the 17th is Constitution Day in the United States, a minor holiday. A holiday might be a stretch, but a minor day to look at how important the Constitution is. And so we're going to look at the preamble. The kids will study it a little bit, and then they will have to actually memorize it and recite it going into next week. So it's pretty short. They shouldn't have a lot of problem memorizing, and they're only going to do it one-on-one. It will not be in front of the class. So they're going to have a partner, and they will meet with that person and recite it. So it's pretty low stakes, not a lot to stress about, but that will be a quick detour that we'll do for social studies. And finally, in science, we're going to read a little bit about NASA's new Artemis missions that are a series of missions where NASA is sending people back to the moon and creating a lunar base. And we're specifically going to look at the kinds of materials that NASA and engineers use to make ships that can handle the incredible speeds, forces, and space in general. So that's what we're doing in science. And of course, the kids will have science lab with Mr. Marco next week as well. That's all I have for you. Thank you again for another great week. I know everyone signed up for conferences at this point. So if you have anything you want to address but don't want to forget, feel free to email me. And of course, even after conferences are over, we'll be able to chat throughout the year anytime you have any questions. Don't forget to check grades. People did a great job. I sent some things home, and parents said, student, go talk to your teacher. And that's the fantastic, perfect first step. Have the student come talk to me. And if there's still confusion, I'm happy to chat with everyone to clear it up. Okay, so have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.